Thank you. My name is Ramon Amaro. I'm a lecturer in visual cultures at Goldsmiths, University of London, and thank you for the introduction. My primary area of research is machine learning, the philosophy of maths, and black ontology. It's quite a bizarre combination, but those actually collide in issues of data ethics, algorithmic bias, and also what's fundamental to this discussion today, which is algorithmic reason and decision making. But before we sort of talk about that entity, I'm in agreement with cultural theorist Rob Kitchen, who argues that we are in the midst of a data revolution. But this revolution not only articulates the proliferation of data as the driving forces of our lives, but the role that data has in catalyzing a dramatic and wide-reaching change in the way individuals and communities are organized and made visible. But these digital ecologies, including machine learning and artificial intelligence, challenge pre-existing notions of social imbalances that are mediated through these technologies. And I would like to emphasize that in most cases, these technologies do not create the social imbalance. They actually mimic and mediate the existing social imbalances that have already been proliferating through our culture. So it takes us back to types of questions on what role decision-making has between a techno-human ecology. But when I think through this, as Nakamura and Chow White point out, no matter how digital and data-driven we become, social inequality along racial lines continues to be problematic. They write that, quote, as the shift from analog to digital media formats, continued pressure is brought to bear on the idea of race as a key concept of identity and an organizing principle of society. And we see these mechanisms enacted in instances of racial profiling, redlining, consumer and voter manipulation, and other forms of discriminatory online actions today. But in this way, data reinforces beliefs that contemporary life and individual and community behavior can be reduced to one giant mathematical problem. However, what we are faced with is a tension between the desire to classify and optimize social phenomenon and the reproduction of existing forms of racism and other violences. What I mean is that data, although commonly viewed as a raw material to be experimented upon and analyzed, is representative of the flesh itself. It is, as Kitchen writes, effective at abstracting the world into categories, measures, and other representational forms using numbers, characters, symbols, images, sounds, even electromagnetic waves and bits that constitute the building blocks from which information and knowledge are created. To what extent these practices are exacerbated by the creation and use of advanced algorithms warrants further investigation. But to take the position that human life and phenomenon can be represented by data amplifies what Donna Haraway calls a common move in the technological sciences. And this move is a move that interprets the world as a problem of coding, where differences in our communities are submitted to, as she says, disassembly, reassembly, investment, and exchange. And what she describes is the informatics of domination. So computational models of organization, what we know today as data, which I define here as then the installation of types of normalizing values and modes of behavior, but they circumvent or in some ways paralyze the actual generation of different types of realities. So when we think about the idea or even the paradigm about decision making, there's actually a step prior to the decision that's actually determined under which groundwork the decision can be made. And that leads us to ideas of power and control, which actually diverts us away from important issues such as optimization, such as community, and really leads us back to a different form of power that we're used to actually putting within the technological apparatus and avoiding the conversation of the human involvement and the social. So what I really question at this point in terms of data ethics is when we're determining the idea as the algorithmic culture proliferates through our society, is it the algorithm that's actually making the decision, or are we just shifting the decision away from the existing modes of discrimination with the difference that accountability is no longer with the human? And that's a very important question, particularly when we look at these mechanisms that themselves operate as if They are not infused with human conditions. And when we think about the possibility of a purely algorithmic culture, a pure data culture, the idea that algorithms and data fundamentally at their functional level of even mathematics can be devoid of a human experience is almost nonsensical. Because at their foundation, even their functional elements, they are designed to reduce human experiences into algorithmic averages, which then are compiled into classifications, which are then compiled into predictions and projections about the future behavior. And what does that leave to the person that actually is an outlier to the mathematics? That person of difference, that person of color, that person of different sexuality, that person of discriminatory gender. It actually leaves them at the will of the algorithmic discovery and perhaps outside of any sort of benefit for algorithmic culture. Thank you.